this podcast will fail. Mostly because nobody's going to listen to it. And you might prove me wrong. Who knows? And here we are with episode 9 of This Podcast Will Fail. A little bit different today in that Mother Nature has decided to join me for the podcast recording, and you may hear the constant, tiny tinkling thrumming of raindrops on the roof of the car in the middle of the park today. It's a rainy day. I thought for a second about trying to maybe commandeer like an empty meeting room or conference room in my building at work, but I thought there's really entirely too much chance of somebody interrupting and opening the door and, oh, sorry, oh, hey, what are you doing? I try not to mix work and personal as a general rule of thumb. So I decided, no, we're going to stick with the lunch plan. We're going to let Mother Nature sprinkle metallic raindrops all over the roof of my car while I speak. And I think that's going to be okay. Because generally speaking, I don't think anybody's really listening. You might be there. Hello. You 2 or 3 possible persons that seem to be jumping in at the beginning. It's like a strange duality. I really want to know who's getting those views logged and what their thoughts are. But that's not the point. The point of this podcast is to just record. Now, this season 1 that I'm in right now is really this journey through 15 years of failure. I have walked through almost all of my creative endeavors. I have examined the ones that were non-starters, the ones that had a moment of success, the ones that felt really good, the ones that sort of fell apart. I've examined my motivations behind starting each of these various creative projects, as well as what ultimately led me to walk away from them. Now, I didn't really go that way with YouTube yet. The initial YouTube channel that I started in 2016 saw a significant ramp up of subscribers and viewers and monetization and success, quote unquote, albeit on a very small scale, through 2017 and 18 and into 19 is when things really started to kind of go in different directions. I talked about how I, for about a year, reintroduced my former radio persona as a game show host on YouTube. Found some success with that and walked away. The next thing I guess I'll dip into. And I talked about yesterday the nature of making friendships and trying to build a quote unquote community among all of that. Okay, good. Now we're caught up. Sorry. Let's continue. I'll move into my first foray into the podcast world. I have a lot of mixed emotions about this. I made a decision that I wanted to play in the podcast space. I didn't understand it, but I wanted to learn it. I really had almost zero experience and exposure, other than a few contemporaries around me that deal with podcasts and did give me some advice. My good friend on the other side of the planet is a professional podcast type person, and he was trying to give me some advice. Here was the premise. I decided, okay, look, I have been trying to pass myself off as a quote unquote professional entertainer for more than a decade now. I have tried to paint myself as a talk show host, as a as a person in the entertainment field that really doesn't have any actual life experience with anything that I was actually doing. I'm an office worker, right? I'm a 9 to 5 punch clock Charlie. That's who I am. Charlie's not my name. I still haven't told you my name, nor will I. I go into a building every single day and I do a job and I earn money and I go home at the end of the day. I have, for the better part of those 15 years, for a really good sizable chunk of those 15 years, been in management and leadership positions. I've been a supervisor and a manager in various office settings and various job functions, and that's what I do, right? I have an office that I'm in charge of, and I have staff and employees that are doing a job, and I'm responsible for them and them doing their job and for keeping the business running. I'm their boss, I'm their leader, whatever. That's what I do. And in the real world, I have found success in that space. That's my actual professional pedigree, is the experience of being a people leader, of being a coach, of being a talent developer, of being an operations guru, right? I understand work in an office that can be digital, can be phone-based, can be in my old days, it was actual paper pushing. But I decided for the podcast that it was time for me to talk about things I actually know, not just things I'm trying to fake. So I launched this thing with the idea of setting up a podcast based on how to be a more effective leader, and how to develop those leadership skills. Now, here again, I'm sure that if somebody out there figured out that this is me and they know who I am, they know even now that I've just given you another clue as to who I actually am. That's if you have any base of reference, but just throwing that out there. So I went in a different direction in terms of trying to build a following in a community, and I decided to go into LinkedIn, which, even though I just got done saying that I'm a business professional by trade, I've never really had much use for or much affinity for LinkedIn. It's always been kind of one of those things that you're supposed to do and that I'm not really a fan of in any great way. But I jumped in because that's where the professionals are. The people that I wanted to reach with my quote-unquote product, the folks that might find my experience useful in listening to me talk about what I've learned and the skill set that I have, would be there on LinkedIn. That's where they're going to be. They're not going to be on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. So I spent a good amount of time digging in, trying to make sure that my profile in LinkedIn was the best it could be for that professional setting. Going after like-minded people that were also in sort of the training and coaching space, to try to attract interview guests. And the reaction was good. The reaction was positive. The several, healthy handful of people that I was talking to in those initial weeks were really on board with what I was doing. They were giving me good feedback. They were like, "Wow, this is good. This is a great idea. You've got it. I like your speaking style. I like, you've got you seem to have a knack for moving a show along." Here, I did talk radio for 4 years. It was going well. I don't know what went wrong. I just lost interest, and it's a regret. It's a thing that I actually regret that it happened. I literally don't understand why I stopped. I think at the time I was busy telling myself that it was boring, that I wasn't really feeling it anymore. I wasn't inspired by any of it. I was in the initial, right? There was a pop There was a flash in the pan. There was a little bang that was like, yeah, here we go. We got this. We're going to do this. I think, I swear, I think I only did like 10 episodes. 10. And it was one a week. So I was really dragging this thing out, right? I'm dragging this thing into the space of like 2 months, 2.5 months. And I just, I stopped, I don't care. I stopped caring. It was not moving me forward. I have to be honest with myself. I'm sorry for the pausing, but I'm I'm talking to myself here, right? Again, I don't know that 11 minutes in that anybody else is still with me here. And I'm sorry if you're listening to this and going, what the actual hell is this guy doing? He's working it out. I'm working through some stuff, man. Give me a minute. I wasn't getting the response. I was getting a great response from the interview guests. They were excited to quote unquote come on the show and share their experience and talk about these scenarios that leaders run into in the workplace. But it wasn't inspiring me, and it certainly was not inspiring a following. The viewership sucked. And here's that moment of being honest with myself. Did I really expect that it was going to take off any more or less than I expected that a YouTube channel would take off? And I guess I did. And I guess that I wasn't prepared for a long haul of playing to an empty room. Keeps coming back to that same thing over and over again. I don't have the fortitude. I just don't. And I don't have an excuse for it. It's how I feel. Like I want to make something because I got a really cool idea. I think it's cool and some people think it's cool. So I want to make this thing. And I want people to watch it and listen to it and enjoy it and react to it and then sign up and sign on and get on board and be a part of it. That's what I want. That's what any creator wants. That recognition, I guess. That following. And I wasn't getting it in this professional space. And maybe I gave up too quickly. I think I realized that the more you put these expectations on yourself, the faster you're going to burn out. And I guess it's a bit of a ramp up. Like it's like an exponential ramp up in burnout. You know, I go back to internet radio. It took me 4 years to burn out. Not really, maybe 3. But I stuck it out for another year. 4 years to burn out. And I didn't do anything for another 4 years. YouTube, it really only took me about 2.5, not quite 3 years to start burning out and wanting to take a break and running out of ideas and not sure what to say anymore. Well, let me go over and do the second YouTube channel with the character that I know and I can work with and perform as. And that only lasted a year before I hung it up. 4 years, 3 years, 1 year, 10 weeks. This is hard because I want to right now slip into a place of self-loathing, and I'm working really hard not to do that. I'm trying to express these things and say them out loud to myself and turn them around in my head and understand them. And the temptation to just basically dog myself and say, well, yeah, because you suck. That's why. You're just not good at what you do. You're not cut out for this. You quit. Look at the evidence. You quit. You quit faster every single time. I quit again. I did it each time. I reached the end of my rope, or the end of my patience, or the end of my desire to push through playing to an empty room. That patience ran out faster and faster and faster each time. So I very abruptly ended the podcast that nobody cared about anyways. Nobody was listening, so what the hell did it matter? What was the point? And guess I just went back to kind of itching and scratching and eking out some kind of existence on YouTube again. Not in any real motivated way, not in any direction at all. It's just sort of there. Far too many silent pauses. I'm sorry. I don't know how many of them I edited out at this point. I'm just watching the clock and seeing that we're coming up on 17 minutes. What did I do after that? After the initial podcast ended, the first one, went back to YouTube for a bit. So, okay, now I remember. There was a resurgence in my YouTube activity, and it was based on making a critical change to my lifestyle. Okay, here we go. Ready? Now we're on, I guess, 2019. I really just walked through 18 into 19. 19, I made some changes to my lifestyle. I guess I will end up talking about these changes in greater detail tomorrow. I guess I will pick this piece up again tomorrow and talk about keto. Talk about the experience of a lifetime of being an overweight, out of shape, quickly approaching middle-aged man, tired old fart. But unfortunately, an overweight, out of shape fart who was in desperate need of a reset to my body and my lifestyle, and to try and ensure guaranteed to the extent possible my continued existence in this world as I moved into my 40s. Moved through my 40s. Yeah, not into, through. Moved through my 40s. I will pick up that thread tomorrow and talk about my venture back into a YouTube and into writing the actual book I wrote that I actually published, and that is out there in the world for people to find and talk about that experience. So, whew, that was a little deep, honestly. That was a little rough. It's tough, trying to find a balance of being open and honest with myself without being too hard on myself, allowing myself to acknowledge my failures without dwelling on it to the point that I just self-deprecate to the point of giving up on everything. It's not what I'm here for. This is a journey to help me work through and move beyond everything that has gone wrong in my creative life so far. And I'm getting there. I'm working through it. So, 20 minutes in, coming up here, and I guess once again, and I say this every time, even though nobody's here to hear it, thank you. If you're one of those ones at the beginning of the podcast listening in, giving the 1, 2, or 3 views, listens, or whatever they call them in podcast world, I know you're not here now, but if you are, my golly, thank you. And I'm sure one day we may meet digitally, online, with a with a message board and a handshake. Who knows? But thank you for your time, and that's it. I'm going to stop here, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one.